I thought it might be nice to look at some of the chanson divisions of Diego Ortiz. So pieces where he's taken an existing chanson by somebody else and then he's decorated one of the parts. So there are various editions of these. They're from his treatise Tratado de Glosas, published in 1553. There's a really nice Bärenreiter edition here. I think I've probably showed you that before. It's got the complete treatise and then all the various examples of the complete madrigal and then the divisions that are on it. I've given you, as always, some links to various online editions. You've been a little bit careful with online ones. I've found scores of the madrigal with whole extra bars in. I've found editions of some of the divisions with notes missing here and there. Quite often there are different options for ficta, and if you're singing it just as the chanson, as long as you agree within the ensemble, it kind of doesn't matter. But then if you put the Ortiz divisions over the top, you need to do the harmonies that are implied by the decorated line. So just be a little bit careful. There are lots and lots of editions of these. We're looking at the chanson Doulce Memoire by Sandrin. And I think when you learn decorated parts, it's actually really important that you know the underlying madrigal quite well to start with. Otherwise the decorations just don't make any sense. So what we're going to do is learn the soprano part unadulterated, just completely plain as it is in the original, before we begin to think about some of the decorations that are at the top. So there are problems with the reason he's chosen these is because they're very simple to start with, so there's space for lots of decorating. But simple things have real ensemble issues, don't they? So the very first bar, let's imagine you're playing this with a consort of three friends, and you set out and everybody plays that first bar, absolutely nothing happens. How on earth do you know when the second bar comes? It can't be just when the first one of you gets to the end of their bow and runs out. So you need to shape the very first note so that it grows and it leads you into the second bar. There's a real risk that what we end up with is a kind of pulse in the middle because we're all trying to hang together. But if you can shape it, it's like pouring water into a bowl, and once the bowl is full, the water spills over the edge. So if you can fill that note with sound, and then when it's full, it spills out and goes into the next bar. But I think it goes further than that. I think it goes to the middle of the second bar. So what I'm actually thinking is growing this stronger, weaker. So I'm no longer thinking, okay, 2, 3, 4, everybody play bar 2 together, and then there's nowhere to go. So that's the shape for the very beginning. Stronger, weaker. I think it's important that you clear out the way in the middle of the third bar, because if you look at the tenor line, they start their new phrase halfway through the bar. Starts on a D. It's going to be jolly inconvenient if you're still playing a C sharp in the middle of that bar, so tail it away and tail it away really elegantly. And then we're going on. So the dotted rhythm, very important it doesn't do that. You're playing right through the dots. Now when we get to this A, this is the middle of bar 5, have a scan down the score. In the middle of that bar, while you're playing your A, the rest of the parts move onto what is going to become an E major chord. So the tenor in particular sticks a B natural against your A at the top. That's the harmonically most important part of that bar. So you need to shape it so that your A grows into the dissonance that happens in the middle of the bar, relaxes onto the G sharp, and relaxes onto the downbeat of bar 6. So we're using the information we've got from the other parts in the score to sort of inform the way we might shape what is a very, very simple line. Middle of bar 6 needs a proper breath. So I think partly because I've recorded this and I've recorded it with a click track to try and keep it together, so there isn't any space for being late. So you have to take your time by finishing other notes early getting in a breath and then not being late on the next note. So in the middle of bar 6, we've got to come away from that in time to have a breath and then not be late. Where we start in the middle of 6, look at the bass line. So, you do not have the most exciting part in the top, in the soprano part. The bass has got something much more exciting to say. If we start full volume, there's nothing really very much to say in those first 3 Fs. If we start from a bit less, we move into the crotchets in the bass part, but then we're absolutely not going to hang around in bar 7 because the bass is moving. So there's no time to be spent luxuriating on our minimums because the bass and the tenor are both moving. So the middle of 6. Now here, you move to an F, but look at the part below you. Still playing a C. So the most interesting harmonic part of that bar, this is bar 8, is the F in the middle, not the downbeat. So the E is less important than this, which has a much more interesting harmony, and that is much weaker. And then here's another point where in the middle of 9, you need to not only finish weak, but I think slightly short. So you leave a bit of space for the middle 2 parts, so we're going to carry on in the middle of the bar. And if you just play your semi-breve full length, you're going to get in their way. Bar 10. What's a lot of A? So we've got to find an interesting shape for that, haven't we? Bar 11. And I know we haven't thought about 10 yet, but just looking at 11 while we get there. Here's another one where the bass part, much more interesting than your note, but the fact that the bass part is rising, it's got places to go, should really help you to shape this as the bass is on its way. So if we're going to do that with bar 11, if we start 10, full pelt, I'm all for making a good sound, but you know, it starts to sound a bit like Morse code if we're not careful. So let's start 10 from a bit less. Grow this because of the bass line. And here, again, look for the tenor part. They come and put a B against the second half of this A. So shape it into the dissonance and away again onto the next bar line. So what I'm going to do is play this part. I've got the rest of the madrigal recorded. It will play out of the magic box here. I'm going to play it. Feel free to play along. And I'm going to talk about it as we go along. I should have said I'm playing this on a tenor. It fits nicely on a tenor. Fits fine on a treble, it's just a little bit low. I quite like being at the top of the tenor rather than kind of low down on the G string of the treble viol. But take your pick, it fits on either. Here comes the whole thing. I'm going to try and play and talk you through a few things at the same time. We get 2 bars in. Grow the first note. Stronger, weaker. Move to the suspension. Take a breath. Stronger, weaker. Start gently. such a simple piece, isn't it? You get the same thing twice, the same thing twice again. It just paints such beautiful shapes, has lots of places where there is plenty of time to take a breath, where then you need to know whether it's your part that leads off next, or whether you just need to allow a little bit of space for one of the inner parts to start off and your job is to follow. So I would spend a little bit of time getting to know the shape of the madrigal, getting to know particularly this top part, before we think about some of Ortiz's decorations on that soprano line.